Yes, 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 and yes. This was the perfect game, the perfect warm-up going into the weekend against Napoli. And to be honest, these past 6 games that the team has played was the perfect warm-up for the rest of the season. Because what we learned is that there's a clear idea in Allegri's head, a clear idea for the team to play a very defensively tight, possession-based game where Milan is just going to oppress the opponent. And that was put on display today immaculately. Because right from the start, there was only one team on the field, and that was Milan. Lecce was nowhere. This game was decided even before it started, it felt like. There was some rotation in the starting 11, and it was interesting to see that Nkunku and Gimenez was the striker duo up front today. And maybe Allegri wanted to give Gimenez that physical support that's able to kind of get the ball and then get it to Gimenez, who just needs to score. And while that didn't work necessarily, in my opinion, Gimenez did get his first goal finally after a beautiful cross from Bartesaghi on the left side. That kid, I think, is going to be great, and I think we need to see him more because I liked him. But I'm getting ahead of myself because even before the goal, Milan dominated. The first 17 minutes, utter domination. And then in the 17th, Nkunku was about to separate from the defender and create a one-on-one situation with the goalkeeper after a great pass. But then the Lecce defender took him out, and after video review, red card was awarded. And in that moment, there was no doubt who the winner was going to be today. Because even before that, you could just see that Lecce was not up for it. And after the red card, they were not able to do anything. I think the first shot, maybe the only shot on goal Lecce had, came in the 71st minute after a free kick. That was the only thing that Magnan had to just like, boop, use his fist to get the ball out of the goal, but it wasn't hard. He didn't need to work. It was just kind of a practice game for him, but not even that because he wasn't involved. So he didn't need to worry about letting a goal in. The only question in this whole game was how many goals Milan was going to score. And in the 21st minute came the first one from Gimenez, Rabiot passing out to the left to Bartesaghi, who put the perfect cross. It was perfectly weighted. He just put it on the foot of Gimenez, who just essentially had to stumble into the ball to, for it to end up in the goal. And that's exactly what he did. It wasn't a clean touch, but he scored his goal, and he was happy, and I was happy. But to be quite honest, he didn't really do much for the rest of the game, so we'll have to see what his confidence will be going into the Napoli game if he's going to start. But for today, he scored the goal, and that was great. And then Milan did not stop. They just kept going. And it was just great to see. It was a cup match. You could easily justify putting a rotated team on the field, maybe performing at a 65% level, because that would have been enough. After the first goal, you could have just said, all right, we're just going to keep the ball and play around and not get tired. But that's not what they did. They just went ahead and kept on going. But there was no more goals in the first half, which does not mean that there was nothing going on in the first half, because in particular, there was this one free kick for Milan that Pavlovic, of all people, took, and it was a perfect free kick out of nowhere. I didn't know this guy had it in him, but apparently he does. And the keeper needed to make a great save to keep it out of the goal. But Pavlovic, of all people, just curling it above the wall into the top corner. That was unexpected, and I loved it. That was great. Pavlovic tends to get up the field. He tends to participate in the attacks. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's less useful. But this one free kick was, I was thoroughly entertained. But that was pretty much it for the first half. And then maybe there was a question of substitutions coming in for the second half to kind of take the workload off of the starting 11. But the team just kept continuing what they had been doing previous games. and they just continued to push, continued to press, and just suffocate Lecce altogether. And that worked really, really well because in the 51st minute, Nkunku scored his first goal, I believe, for Milan, and it was a beautiful kind of almost like a bicycle kick after a Salamaker's cross. It was a perfectly executed acrobatic move and ended up in the back of the net. 2-0, Milan cruising to the next round of the Italian Cup. There was no question. Lecce, I think they had 25%, maybe 30% of possession this whole game. That's incredible. That's what we like to see. Now, you can say, yes, it was a lesser opponent, and even the Lecce team was completely rotated. I don't think there were a lot of players that would have started in the league necessarily. But hey, not my problem. Di Francesco puts their team together, and apparently there was a cut to the Lecce president, and he was not happy at all. And the pundit said, "Well, maybe Di Francesco's got to go." Maybe, but there was a clear idea that Lecce did not care about this game. That's the feeling I got, at least. Not that I'm complaining, because it was good for us. And in the 61st minute, Pulisic comes on. Why? I have no idea, because that dude needs to rest. Like, he came back from an injury not too long ago. Going into the Napoli game, when the team is 2-0 up, I think you rest him. I think that's the decision. But I'm not the coach of Milan, for good reason. And I would have been wrong, because Pulisic came on, and then he scored from another cross. This time it was Fofana from the right, just putting a cross in to the far post, and Pulisic got in front of his defender to just pass the ball into the net. It was like a practice match, really. It was really entertaining, and I think we needed that, because the first 2, 3, maybe 4 games were kind of meh in terms of entertainment. But the Udinese game over the weekend and this one today, they absolutely delivered, and this is the Milan that I want to see. And maybe I should not be too salty about the transfer window, because apparently these guys can put in the performances that are required to win games. I don't know. We'll see over the weekend against Napoli, but for today, this was perfect. And that's why I'm saying it was a perfect warm-up for the rest of the season, because these games that we played so far, they weren't the most difficult, but they were great to build confidence and go into the Napoli game and the Juve game after, knowing that we have a good defense and a good attack. We just need to convert all our opportunities, and we're going to win games. I think it's easy as that. I don't think there's anything more to analyze here, because the idea is very, very clear. And that at least gives me some assurance that we know what we're doing, that Allegri knows what he's doing. Finally, Milan has character. And I love to see that there is a very distinct identity to the team. It shows determination. It shows that there's an idea. And it shows that the players are actually able to execute what they're asked to execute. And I love to see that. I cannot really say anything more, because this game against Lecce was pretty much the closest to a perfect game that you can get. I don't think there's anything else left to be said. Actually, there is. So I just need to say this. This has nothing to do with anything. But I just have to say, there was one time during the broadcast, I think it was after Nkunku's goal, when they cut to the Milan bench and they cut to Modric. And I somehow, I was looking at him, and this image of Modric with short hair from, like, I don't know, years ago. And I just remembered that he looked exactly like Butters from South Park. And for whatever reason, I was just so thoroughly entertained. I was completely untroubled. And so when they cut to Modric, that was the picture that I saw in front of my eyes when they cut to. Yeah, that was a fun time. That was a fun time. But yeah, Modric was enjoying the game. He didn't need to come on, and that's fine. He can play the 90 minutes every week, and then that'll be enough. Except the fact that we're playing against Lazio in the next round of the Cup. So maybe Modric will be needed in some capacity at that game, but That's way out. Let's just focus on the next one. Napoli, he'll be ready. He'll be ready to go, and the team will be ready to go. And I'm excited. I haven't felt this way for so long when it comes to Milan. Certainly not last season. I have no idea what happened last season. I can't even remember. There was pretty much nothing going on. Nothing exciting. Maybe the Super Coppa was exciting. But there was just no weight to the team. There was no character. But now there is. And now I'm excited. I'm excited to be a Milan fan. And I want to see the team win. And the first big win that they can deliver will be against Napoli this weekend. And if they can do it, then they have brought me on board. Because I'm not buying it just yet entirely. But if they get 4 points out of the 2 games against Juve and Napoli, then I'm on board. I will be completely on board. All right, so let's talk about the biggest positives in this game. I want to say Gimenez goal because finally he was able to score. But I don't know if that was the biggest positive for me. I think the biggest positive for me was that Lecce was just nowhere. It was one-way traffic this whole time. Even in a cup game, even when the team didn't need to dominate the whole time, they did. The biggest negative of this game? I have no idea. Quite honestly, what was the biggest negative? That Lecce did get 1 shot on target? Maybe that was the biggest negative? I don't know. There really was nothing wrong with today's performance. Just nothing. I cannot find anything. So yeah, there's that. Player of the match. That's a little bit more difficult because there were so many good performances. So let me try to collect my thoughts here. Bartasaghi was great. That young dude is just, I want to see him more. His cross into Gimenez was chef's kiss. Then there was Salamakers, obviously. My boy just doing what he does with the great passes, the great runs. There was Pulisic, obviously, coming in to score a goal 2 minutes later. And then Nkunku with that scissor kick, bicycle kick type goal. So it's hard to decide who was the best player, who was the most consistent, who was the most useful in this game. And I think for me it's between Bartasaghi and Salamakers. But my final vote goes to Salamakers just because I just like that guy. That's it. And like I said, this was the perfect warm-up going into the Napoli game. And I cannot wait to sit down and watch that game. I cannot wait to sit down and watch us win that game. So that's it from me. Let me know if you agree with my player of the match. Let me know who your player of the match was. I'm interested to see who has different opinions because maybe you can convince me. I don't know, maybe not. But I'll see you after the Napoli game. Ciao.